Welcome to the Tuesday night, June 6, 2017 meeting. This is the 9th business meeting of the City Board of Directors. Tonight our invocation will be led by Pastor Rob Thornton, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from by Caroline Dean, who just recently attended Girls State. So, Pastor Thornton, please come forward and please rise.
Mayor, board members, thank you for the opportunity to let me come and pray. Father, we just come to you in Jesus' name, and Lord, I thank you for the city of Hot Springs and Garland County that you've placed us in, such a beautiful place to live. Lord, I thank you for these men and women that serve on the board and the mayor. God, I ask that you would give them the wisdom and the knowledge, the discernment they need to lead this city in a way that would be prosperous for Hot Springs. God, help them in their decisions. Help there to be unity between them, Lord. Move everything that needs to be moved in this city that you would be glorified. Father, I thank you for the opportunity that we have in this city. I just ask that we would all work together for the good, and we just give you the praise and honor and glory for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Caroline?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Thornton and Caroline Dean. Thank you. At this time, we'll have our roll call.
Davidson.
Here.
Jones. Clark.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll have the approval agenda. Is there any additions, deletions, alterations to the agenda as presented, or any items that are on the consent agenda that you'd like to have removed? Entertain a motion to approve.
I move for approval of the agenda.
Approval of motion by Director Williams, seconded by Director Clark. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. In a few minutes, for those of you who have cell phones and those of you who are in your home audience, please get your cell phone or cordless phone, because we're going to do something never done before in the United States or in the world. And so get your phone out. We're going to do this as a total community. We're going to call into the do not call list. We're going to register our phones on the do not call list. So many of us are getting phone calls, and we don't know how to stop it. So Terry Payne assisted me today, and we're going to do it all together. So now, if you want all those calls from Veronica telling you that there's nothing wrong with your credit card, but if you'd like to reduce your rate, please hold, and other people with other services, products and services, then don't pull your phone out. So we're going to give you a few minutes, and we're going to hit on a few other items, and we'll address that on upcoming events. So at this time, we got approval of minutes. We've got two meetings. We have the special meeting of May 9th and the regularly scheduled meeting of May 16th. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
We got a motion from Director Foley to approve both sets of minutes. We need a second by Director Clark. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Meeting rules. Many of you are veterans here, so our rules haven't changed. We certainly entertain input from citizens, and there's a sign-up sheet outside. And for both pro and con on any subject that comes before the board tonight. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we have the clocks that will be displayed on the monitors. It's a countdown clock, and there's no trap door, so if you go over, nothing's necessarily going to happen to you, but we will ask you to wrap up your comments. So with that in mind, we'll be able to have a very efficient meeting. At the same time, if you're not here for the entire meeting, we ask that you leave quietly so that the balance of the agenda can be can be addressed in a timely manner. At this time, we have recognition of guests, and Mr. Jim Fram will be here, President of the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Hot Springs Metro Partnership, is going to discuss the Metro Partnership audit.
Thank you very much, Mayor, City Manager, members of the board. I've put copies of the audit for 2016-2015 in front of you. We engaged Smith & Crass, local CPA firm, to conduct this audit. Liz Hill, CPA, presented this to the partnership board at their last meeting. Presentation of this audit is something that we do every year as fulfillment of the contract that we have with the city to perform specific economic development services. And once it's accepted by our board, we always try to make an appointment to come and present this to you. And then I've got a very brief report at the end of this that I would like to share with you. The most important part, I guess, of this audit is the letter from the auditor that says that it's a clean audit and that we have done our financial accounting according to generally accepted accounting practices, and they found no reason to put a management letter in. On page 7, there's a table that reflects the financial activity on the Passport Center that is currently being leased by CGI out of Washington, D.C., and a contract that they have with the State Department to process passports. And I can tell you that, just as an aside, they are at full employment right now and still adding people, so there may be some additions put on that building at some point. Also on page 13, that's the last page on the audit. There is a schedule of operating expenses, and there's nothing out of the ordinary on those unless you would have a question about a line item that I might try to respond. Before I give you a very quick project report, I'd be delighted to respond to any questions you may have on the audit report itself.
I have one. On page 8, investment land, it notes that land represents approximately 10 acres of land owned by the organization in Mid-America Park, December 31st, 2016 and 15. Does this mean is that all the other property at Mid-America Park is owned by someone else and you have 10 acres that you could still develop or sell?
Yes, and understand that my report is not laying blame. I'm just kind of explaining this. We own 10 acres, which is primarily small, narrow rights of way that are really not usable for development. Over the years in developing the park, a developer normally would pass along care and ownership of those right-of-ways to property owners as they acquired lots in the park, and in some cases that didn't happen, and so we ended up owning some of those, and we're still responsible for those. Fortunately, we have tenants that take care of mowing and keeping those up. The problem with them is none of them are of a size that they have any advantage for us to use as a product for development. We also own a pond that's been drained, and we're in the process of, we've had an engineer's study done on that. It sits next to the Triumph, one of the Triumph facilities, and we are working with Triumph and working with the county to try to find some resolution to that pond that's been drained. Normally it would be something that could be repaired very quickly, but there are some wetlands issues that have to be taken care of at various different levels of government, and we're in the process of going through those applications right now.
I'm well acquainted with that pond. One time the beavers dammed up the overflow such that when they had a heavy rain, the water actually went underneath and shoved the culvert up in the middle of the street.
I did have a gentleman stop by our office almost a year ago and explain to me how good a fishing pond that was, and chastised me for, he assumed, I guess, I was the one that drained it.
Okay, so really you don't have any lots for sale out in Mid-America Park?
We don't. James Montgomery, who is our chairman this year, and also with BNF Engineering, he and I have spent the last year or two scouring maps and looking at websites, and interestingly, the Chamber's benchmark trip this year is going to Chattanooga, and Chattanooga, if you want to look it up, developed an industrial park where they actually leveled a mountain, and today there is a Volkswagen manufacturing facility sitting in that park, so it'll be interesting to see how they did that. But that's about what we're going to have to do to find a piece of ground that's level and large enough to land something of that size. If there are no other questions on the audit, I want to report to you that we have 7 active projects. 4 of those projects have Arkansas Economic Development Commission project managers assigned to that. We have 1 local employer that we are working with where their home office has put them in a position to compete for a new product line with a facility in another state. And we have working with AEDC and working with some other entities to try to make sure that our company location here is the winner of that. Also, just last week, we got a new project that I don't have a whole lot of details on that's going to involve pretty significant capital investment by a local employer here.
Any other questions of Jim?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. At this time, we'll hear our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Frazier?
Good evening, board members. First off, I want to mention that tomorrow there's an important citywide test of the city's emergency siren system that'll be held at noon. I'm sorry, not tomorrow, at noon next Wednesday, June 7th.
I thought it is tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wednesday, June 7th. And you're going to hear something that really sounds like the real deal. So be prepared for that. You're going to hear voices and and sirens and all kinds of noise. We've installed some of these sirens. You might recall in the budget process, we had 2 more that were installed recently to cover all of the city now. So it's a good time to be testing that system. So don't be alarmed if you hear it, but also you'll know what it sounds like, and we'll know that it works in the right scenarios and right situations. I think many of those are also going to be hardwired to generator systems that'll be a backup in the event of an emergency where we lose power. So be ready for that. Recently there have been some international news about the environment and the Paris Accords and so on. I know the mayor's going to talk about that more later. In anticipation of his comments, we assembled some information about things the city had done in the last couple of years that we think show a particular sensitivity to the environment. And I know quality of life and taking care of our environment is also in our board's goals that we're working on right now, your 2-year goals. But you start putting one of these together and you realize pretty soon that every department has done some pretty significant things. And, coming here from a place that I would say had an emphasis on environmental sensitivities and considerations, I'm really surprised actually at how much the city has done, how progressive we've been in trying to tackle some of these issues that affect the quality of life here. And I want to make more noise about what Mr. Burrow told me, that the American Lung Association determined we had the cleanest air in the United States a few years ago. And then last year we started looking at tree canopy, urban forest canopy, and I'm not afraid to cheat a little bit and say that not every city has a national park inside, so that helps a little bit. But when you look at the tree canopy, and staff have heard me lament a little bit that the tree canopy on parts of Central is more or less a desert, which we hope to change over time. But notwithstanding that, we have a very healthy tree canopy, and we found last year when we crunched some numbers that it is among the very, very highest in North America as far as the percent of healthy tree canopy in the city, and we're proud of that. I think we can do better still because we've just recently hired our urban forester. But I'm going to hand this out and just let you keep these for, some of you are more inclined to keep things. And it's ironic that I'm talking about the environment and I'm handing out all this paper. But it's really an impressive list of stuff. I want to thank the staff and Sheila and Bill.
Actually, 11 pages long.
Getting
Quite
this
significant.
together. So next, I want to mention the Solid Waste, Animal Services, and Police Department and Neighborhood Services all collaborated recently to initiate Operation Clean Sweep within the Murray-Hazel Street area. The Police Department has identified that area for enhanced services next week. So the city will initiate personal contact with each household to explain code compliance and other city services and requirements, and to answer questions that residents might have. Beginning June 12th, Solid Waste will pick up any discarded items that the neighborhood residents have placed at curbside. We're excited to be part of that effort, and I was explaining to one of our directors last week that our protocol, and we've worked closely with the court system and the judges in the court system, we want to ask politely. We want to start with education, then we want to ask folks politely to address these. Then we have to move into a firmer, telling people, and then finally taking enforcement action. So this is sort of that first step. We want to try to get compliance in a voluntary manner if we can at all possible do that. So out of the city clerk's office, the city will be accepting applications until 5 p.m. on Friday, June 16th for a total of 29 volunteer positions on various city advisory boards and commissions. Applicants must be registered voters of the city of Hot Springs unless otherwise specified. Board and commission members are appointed by the board of directors and meet in the board chambers at City Hall in this building unless otherwise specified. For details, please visit the City of Hot Springs webpage or contact the city clerk's office. Also, as of June 1, the City of Hot Springs compost facility hours of operation have changed to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Fees for assisted loading are now $10 for the first 4 cubic yards. There's no charge for those choosing to load the materials themselves. A fee disposal of yard and wood waste by commercial operations and non-municipal utility wastewater customers are based on the size of the load, ranging from $10 for 4 cubic yards or less, up to $50 for 50 cubic yards. So for more information, you can go to www.cityhs.net/242/fees, and you can see that information there. During the month of June, our compost division will be giving away wood chips to anyone needing them, and staff will load the wood chip material free of charge. On to Parks and Trails. They completed the landscaping of the Stormwater Pocket Park next to Craighead Laundry downtown on Malvern Avenue by installing 2 park benches. This parklet is now functioning as an ecological sink to capture and treat rainwater runoff from the surrounding asphalt parking lots. The benches are already being used as people discover an open space oasis in the middle of an urban setting. This location represents one of the first green infrastructure projects initiated by the city's Complete Streets team. Next, the public is invited to groundbreaking of the David F. Watkins Memorial Park to be held at noon on Friday, June 16th at 811 Park Avenue. I want to thank the public-private partnership that we've had with the Park Avenue Community Association and other organizations, and through the generous donations of many individuals and groups, the development of the park is well underway. So please stop by and find out how this park is enhancing the neighborhood. And particularly, I'm pleased with this because of the leadership and the vision that Mr. Watkins had for this area, and I think it's a good testament to his legacy. And then after tonight's board meeting, some of you will recall that, and I can't actually remember which of you suggested to me that Friday highlights become something that we put out more widely to the public. When I first came, I started sharing that Friday highlights document with each of you, so you'd have a kind of a capsule of what activities we had done in that week. And you liked it enough that you encouraged me to make it more publicly available. We've done that. But we're going to take that to the next level, and after tonight's board meeting, Public Information will issue the first board report, which is an online publication highlighting some of the major decisions made at each board meeting that night. Sometimes our board meetings happen and there'll be a lot of coverage in the media about it. Other times there'll be very little, and when somebody else tells the story, it's not always really what happened. So we want to make sure that we get that information out there as quickly as possible, and we're going to start doing that after tonight. So please let me know your feedback too on that effort if you hear from people, or if you yourself forgot what you met about and want to refresh your memory, you can go on there and see, and you don't have to click on a link and watch the whole meeting or look for a certain place in the meeting to see it. You can see the summary right on the website. And then another reminder to board members and the public who might want to meet with any of us that the Arkansas Municipal League Conference is next week, June 14th to the 16th in Little Rock. And I will be off on June 13th for my daughter's 4th birthday. So Bill will be here. That's the night. I think you have a work session that night. So I'll be cutting cake and being daddy. So thank you.
Are you going to pin the tail on donkey?
We have a piñata that we're going to. I have to find a stick.
I guess
to beat
that's
the
more
piñata.
modern than a pin the tail on donkey.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Now we're on the Board of Directors announcements regarding upcoming events. Any director have an upcoming event they'd like to make everyone aware of?
I know.
The last 2 weekends have been just full of events, so maybe we need a rest.
Well, I will say, It's Good Food is parking their mobile food truck at that, I've forgotten the address exactly, but it's at Park Avenue, and they've turned this empty space into a little park with the city's help. And you can hardly get in there. There are so many cars on the weekends. But stop by if you have a chance. I believe it's Friday afternoons and sometimes Saturdays, too. It's really good.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we promised you all to get your cell phones out, so get your cell phones out real quick to add to your do not call list. Follow along. We're going to call a 1-888-382-1222. And just hit that. I want to put mine on speaker.
Welcome to the National Do Not Call Registry. For English, press 1 now.
Oh, I got to press.
Para español, presione. The National Do Not Call Registry is brought to you by the Federal Trade Commission. Please note that if you have previously placed your number on the registry, you do not need to register again. To verify if your number is already on the registry, press 1. To register your phone number, press 2. To file a complaint, you must be calling from the number you want to register. Remember, you are registering for everyone in your household who uses this number. Beginning with the area code, please enter your 10-digit phone number.
Would you repeat those numbers again, Mayor?
Just don't forget.
I turned my phone off.
Your registration is complete. If your phone number changes, you must register your new number. In 31 days, most telemarketers will be required to stop calling you. After your phone number has been on the registry for 31 days, you may file a complaint about telemarketing calls that you receive. You can file a complaint at Do Not.
Well, I'll cut it off there because there is a website, www.arkansasag.attorneygeneral.gov. So it's ag.gov. And even though we all just did that, remember, it's 31 days after. So if somebody checked your phone, called you at noon today, they got 31 more days they can call you, okay? And if you bought a product or service from a telemarketer in the last 18 months, they get to, you got about 18 more months of hearing from them, okay? So there are many exceptions. So what we did today doesn't necessarily eliminate your calls, but over time, they should be reduced. So
It wouldn't let me block you, Mayor. I don't know.
I had 3 of those calls this week to work on my credit card, and I've just found out that I was registered on this since 2010.
Well, yeah, I had one person
they
check
still come.
earlier today, and they didn't think they were registered. They were actually registered in February of 2004, and the person actually made the comment. It says, I think over time it weakened or something. It diluted.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the recharging it will maybe help. But there is some rules here that telemarketers have to abide by, and there is the ability to file a complaint. So you can check with the Attorney General's office for those details, or call Terry Payne at Public Information because she had all the detail for me. So moving right along, thank you. That's your public service announcement for tonight. Want to at this time acknowledge that Director Randy Foley will serve as Assistant Mayor for the next 6 months. So Becca, you did such a wonderful job, and I tried to get you back in here, but it has a rotation. So
You want it?
Randy's going to be the man. Randy will take the hot seat. Okay, and then we have the board meetings for the next 6 months have also been set, and just want to make the board members aware that July 4th is on a Tuesday, and well in advance of this meeting, a decision was made to meet on July 3rd. If that's still your desire, we can do that. But if there's any change in that, we'll need to make the public aware, pretty soon on that. So those that right now is the only alteration from our first and third Wednesday, or excuse me, now I got you, first and third Tuesday of the month. So at this time, we'll go ahead with our consent agenda, and items on the consent agenda are routine and without discussion. We'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda at this time.
I move for adoption of the consent agenda.
We've got Director Williams made a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Davidson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. Now we have resolution number R-1794. Mr. Albright, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R-1794, resolution awarding a contract for construction management services on various wastewater consent administrative order related projects to RJN Group. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
A motion by Director Clark. We have a second by Director Foley. At this time, we'll hear from our staff member in charge, Mr. Gary Carnahan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is part of our compliance with consent administrative order, and we have a bond issue that we passed that you all approved in 2013 for $40 million. So when we, with the work that is related to this proposal tonight, we'll be within a couple of $1 million now of spending all that money improving the wastewater system, collection system in the city. So it's a major accomplishment that and brings us closer to being relieved from that consent administrative order. But this particular item tonight is to approve a contract. We're asking you to award a contract to RJN Engineering Group for construction services for some sewer rehabilitation projects. And there are two projects. One is under construction already, just started, and the other one will be started up real soon in a couple months. So those two projects together cover sewer rehab and sewer replacement projects over 22 different streets, parts of 22 different streets in the city. So it's a lot of work scattered all over $2.5 million worth of construction work, and we just don't have the staff to provide proper inspection for that work. So that's why we're proposing, we have done a rate and rank of firms and selected RJN because we've used them in the past for this type of work, and we've been very pleased with the value that we gain from using them. They're very experienced in this particular type of work. So we're asking you to let us award this contract for $229,492 to RJN for this construction management work.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait. Well, we got to have public first. We have nobody from the public that want to speak to this? Directors? Director Williams?
My question is totally unrelated to what you're speaking about, but it will save me a call tomorrow. Our overlay projects are scheduled to start this month.
Right.
Do you have an indication if that will be early this month, middle month, or
well, we're actually next either Friday of this week or early next week. We're going to do the TV Hill Road paving project. Will be our first one that we do, and then we'll try to follow on right after that with the others. Start doing those. So
next
here
Friday,
in the middle of June, we're going to start that work, sir.
Friday, weather permitting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any any questions for Gary? Any additional questions?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Is adopted.
Next is consideration of resolution number R-1795. Mr. Albright, will you please read the resolution by title?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution R-1795, a resolution awarding a contract to Evans Construction, Inc. and Ouachita Children's Center for facility improvements using Community Development Block Grant funds. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion and second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Director Foley, seconded by Director Williams. And we have Ms. Kathy Salmon for the balance of the meeting.
Thank you. Kathy Salmon, Planning and Development Director. This is a request for the board's consideration of a contract between the city, Evans Construction, and the Ouachita Children's Center to complete Community Development Block Grant funded youth homeless shelter rehabilitation projects that were previously approved in fiscal years 2015 and 2016 annual action plans. The CDBG funds for this endeavor have been committed and authorized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under those grants. The project itself involves renovation of youth bathrooms, replacement of 6 aged and failing HVAC units, and the construction of a life skills training classroom. This will provide a suitable and safe environment for unaccompanied youth temporarily sheltered at OCC. In compliance with city and federal 2 CFR 200 procurement procedures, a request for competitive sealed bids was successfully executed, and 4 bid responses were publicly opened on May 8th. Evans Construction Incorporated was identified as the lowest responsive total award bidder at a total cost of $187,630.50. Per city CDBG policy, Ouachita Children's Center is required to match the CDBG grant at a minimum of 1-to-1 and by way of executed subrecipient agreements and this proposed contract with Evans Construction, the city will not be required to spend more than the $93,879.65, which are authorized for architectural fees and construction. There will be no impact to city general funds as a result of this contract, and notice of intent to award was posted May 19th through May 26th. No protests were received, and City Attorney Brian Albright has reviewed and approved the proposed contract. Thank you very much.
And again, we have nobody from the public that had signed up. Any questions of the directors?
I do have a question, Mayor, or maybe a couple. I don't really understand the process, Kathy. Normally, for example, if we get CBDG funds for sidewalks, for example, it's generally on property that's in a right-of-way. We own some of that. In this instance, this is changes to property that is owned by somebody else.
Right.
Are we the general contractor? Are we... I don't understand the legal relationships between the parties.
We are not the general contractor. We have only a fiscal relationship with regard to this project, and that is to fund the $93,879.65. Anything over and above that, up to or exceeding the $187,000, will be the responsibility of OCC.
Who oversees the construction and makes sure that the Ouachita Children's Center gets what they seek?
They are subject to permitting and inspections as any other project of that type would be.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
So we won't be waiving those permits, will we?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not.
Why not?
Any further questions of Kathy or any general discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Williams?
Aye.
Foley?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
McCabe?
Aye. Resolution adopted. Now we'll consider ordinance number 01719, but we'll need to have a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Do I have a motion to suspend and read by title only?
So move.
A motion by Director Davidson, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. All in favor to suspend the motion and read by title only, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Mr. Albright, please read ordinance by title.
Ordinance 01719, an ordinance to impose an absolute moratorium on any request for speculative information, application for permits, licenses, or other decisions or actions related to medical marijuana for 180 days within the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion by Director Foley, second.
Second.
Second by Director Davidson. Ms. Selman.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
Mayor. Thank you. On November 7th, 2016, Arkansas voters narrowly approved the medical marijuana amendment to the state constitution. Garland County, in pretty much parallel to the state, voters here approved the measure by 21,324 yes to 19,254 no. The measure did permit voters to ban marijuana dispensaries and cultivation facilities in the municipalities. The issue that was approved by the voters authorized the Arkansas legislature to amend sections of the amendment and not to amend others. This year, the legislature entertained or approved many amendments, and final rules are not yet available, although July 1st is the expected kickoff date for related state or local action. In light of state rulemaking as yet unpublished, and to allow the City of Hot Springs Board of Directors to establish procedures adequate to protect health, safety, and welfare of its residents and property owners, a 100-day moratorium on any request or application related to marijuana or marijuana-related dispensing or cultivation. The request is also that the board declare an emergency because we have an impending kickoff date of July 1st. We would like to have, or are asking you to have this in place, and that you would declare the emergency to exist and this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage. So the recommendation to you is that you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Yeah, just a clarification, it's a 180-day moratorium. I know you misspoke. You said 100, but
yeah,
we're
that
good.
is
I just want to
exactly
make sure
right.
the viewing audience understood that.
Yeah, it's 180.
I just noticed this. There's a typo in that fourth whereas. It says whereas June 1st, 2017 was the target date. It should be July 1st.
Yeah, actually, that's initially June 1st was the target date.
Yes.
They just recently changed that to July 1st. But,
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, well, then that's okay then. But, we just said July 1st, so I thought maybe it was a typo.
Yes. Mayor?
Yes, Director Clark.
I certainly appreciate the difficulty that's presented by the lack of regulations from the state about this law. We don't want to make any mistakes, just as Ms. Selman said, during this initial period that could impact our planning or enforcement. However, I don't really want this board to be seen potentially as delaying or subverting the will of the majority of the voters of the state and of the city. So I'd like to amend the ordinance to reduce the period of the moratorium from 180 to 90 days. We all understand that the timeline can be adjusted in either direction as we get final information and instructions from the state governing bodies. I think this is a good and reasonable compromise.
Okay, so is that a motion?
That's a motion
We
for
have
amendment to amend.
We have a motion to amend. Do we have
I'll second
we have
Director
a second
Clark's
to amend, so we're,
amendment.
any further discussion? We got a second by Director Williams. Any further discussion? Director Foley?
Yes. If rules are promulgated July 1st, in fact, if they're promulgated now, today, there's still a 90-day comment period before they can be in effect. Is that not correct by law?
Yes.
So that, by definition, that means that we will automatically be back in 90 days to give it another 90 days, because we can't even meet the law as it stands today for the 90-day comment period before it takes effect.
I mean, I think that there's potential for that. Of course,
Potential for what?
that you will be asked to extend it beyond the 90-day period. But what this is, I think, aimed at trying to alleviate is the inquiries that are being lodged in the planning department now over something that they have no idea on how to address. So at least when the rules are promulgated, at least they'll have some ability to advise the applicants of what they can expect.
Without our own rulemaking.
Right.
I mean, I agree with Director Clark. The public's perception is going to be that we're trying to drag this out, and we're really not trying to do that. But I'm just looking at the timeline of events that says it appears to me that we automatically will be coming back for a 90-day extension on this 90-day moratorium because of the comment period. They can't do it any faster, can they?
I mean, it is possible that you're going to be looking at it again, but bear in mind that the law does go into effect July 1. It's just the rules that are promulgated by the legislative subcommittee on this topic that we'll be waiting to hear the comments.
Okay, so we already know the law, right? We just don't know the rules.
The law is that they are permitted. There is a buffer that's applied for dispensaries, 100 or 1,500 feet from churches, schools, daycare facilities, and for cultivation centers, that's 3,000 feet. One of the things that we don't know is that measured from the parcel line, is that measured from the building edge, is it measured from the front door? So, we're going to need a little help from the state in getting their rules finalized so we know how to prepare a map, which, by the way, will likely come back to this board for your consideration and approval at that point anyway, so that the public can look at a map and, with some ability of some certainty, we'll be able to tell whether or not a particular area is an area that is permitted for this type of use, which, by the way, has to be treated the same as any pharmacy. And so pharmacy is permitted in all commercial zoned areas and manufacturing areas. It is conditional use in CTR. So at this point, it's a little difficult to prepare a map for someone to be able to ascertain that information.
I mean, that's I support this amendment. I just don't think it gets us anything.
Yes, Director Williams.
2 weeks ago, they had the Arkansas Rural Development Conference here. I attended.
Excuse me.
And they had an excellent panel discussion, which basically the people that attended that had very short presentations, and the audience just directed questions to the ABC that we were responsible for enforcing the rules and laws with regard to cultivation facilities, and then the health department, which would be responsible for the process of licensing and being able to issue somebody a card where they could purchase medical marijuana. I do note that at our municipal league meeting we have next week on Thursday morning, there'll be a presentation on this matter. And I did note in the newspaper, the front page of the Sentinel Record last week, that we have a firm, Wind Choice USA, that has bought the old Weyerhaeuser property to develop not only expand their window operation, but also they're going to apply for a permit for a cultivation facility. And I give a big shout out to Mountain Pine, because that site's been idle since 2006, and it will be a shot if they do this does go forward. Both their plant expansion and they get this permit, they'll be a big shot in the arm for our second largest city in Garland County.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments regarding the amendment?
Oh, one other thing that I got at the conference. One of the things they have done is they have prepared a map which establishes 8 zones for Arkansas medical marijuana dispensary zones, and Garland County is in Zone 6.
Okay. Very good. Any further questions or discussion regarding the amendment? Will you call roll on the amendment to
Yes.
reduce from 180 days to 90 days, the moratorium?
Davidson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
Not necessary. The ordinance has been amended. If you want to have further discussion on the ordinance as amended, that would be appropriate, or to call for the roll as amended.
Any further discussion? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Is adopted.
Mayor, there's also an emergency clause associated with this particular ordinance, Section 7, which I'll read in its entirety and will require a separate vote by the board. Section 7 emergency clause, the board determines that the ability to maintain the public health, safety, and welfare, the proliferation of persons and entities seeking speculative and hypothetical answers prior to the city's ability to provide timely and accurate information constitute an emergency. An emergency is therefore declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage. That concludes your reading of the emergency clause. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
We have a motion to adopt the emergency
I
clause.
move for adoption of the emergency clause.
Got a motion by Director Williams, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Emergency clause adopted. Now we'll move on to ordinance 01720, and I'd like to have a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Director Williams, seconded by?
Aye.
Second.
Seconded by Director Foley. Mr. Albright, please read the motion.
All in favor on the motion to suspend.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion to suspend, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Time we read by title only.
Yes, sir. Ordinance 01720, an ordinance amending the Hot Springs Code, the sign code, ordinance number 5086 as amended by repealing ordinance number 5369, section 1B, Hot Springs Code, section 16-5-1B, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion. If you
Very good. Welcome back, Ms. Selman.
Very much.
Motion.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, I don't think
ready?
we got the motion.
Pardon?
Motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Motion to adopt,
So moved.
moved by
Second.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Davidson. Sorry. Now, Kathy.
Thank you very
Thank
much. This is an amendment that was proposed by District 1 Director Suzanne Davidson and the Hot Springs Arts Advisory Committee at a recent meeting voted unanimously to support an ordinance amending Title 16 to repeal mural approval by Planning Commission. It seems like every other month we're talking about things that were affected by the Supreme Court decision in Reed and City of Gilbert, Arizona, which in brief, that decision has been interpreted to prohibit local governments from regulating signs based upon their content. Murals are difficult. There is much to consider with murals. We have their artistic merit. We have interpretations of things that artistic interpretations that not everybody likes, and for whatever reason, our code at this time requires that mural proposals be approved by the Planning Commission a group not totally trained in art criticism, and but that is following a non-binding recommendation from the Arts Advisory Committee, a group far better qualified to make a decision on murals. So in reading up about how we should be responding to the Reed decision, one of the things that were specifically identified is murals, and because of someone's interpretation that they are or are not desirable, it is suggested that one way to deal with murals from a code point of view is to define them, which we have done, and to state they are exempt, which is the request before you tonight. The amendment proposed by Director Davidson and supported by the Arts Advisory Committee would repeal a small portion of Ordinance 5639, Section 1, Subsection B. That would be repealed in its entirety, leaving mural review and approval to the Arts Advisory Committee, consistent with its mandate to review and consider public arts. Planning Commission heard this item after advertising and public hearing was on May 11th, and the commissioners unanimously recommend to the board approval of an ordinance repealing Ordinance 5639, Section 1, Subsection B, regarding murals. That's all.
I'd like to address why I did this. We've had some murals pop up recently in the Park Avenue area, and for the most part, most of them are good. I personally would love to see us get more like Fort Smith with their murals. They've done a great job. They're unusual. They're in unknown places. My concern is that whenever a mural is decided on, that one needs to take into consideration the community where it's put up. And in that case, one of them that's just recently gone up is very, very dark and could have used a little assistance in the design, and it would pop and be much, much better and more noticeable. And now it just looks, it's just dark. But that was my main reasoning behind it. I didn't want to change anything in regard to what was allowed or not allowed, the materials, but that I thought the Arts Advisory Committee might be a good group to just look at it and go, oh, that's really great. Well, you might think about this. It's kind of like teaching art. You know, you never want to tear somebody's work down, but you just give some assistance to make it look a little better. And that's where I was going with it. We just want them all in good taste, and I know we're not going to judge content necessarily, and then, you know, even with the Planning Commission, they have to abide by what we would expect to be acceptable. And that was my only consideration, is to have an artistic eye pointed at it, at the design before they're put up. And maybe even, you know, even have some community people take a look at it, just to get input from the area.
I'm glad you stated that it was dark in color. At first, I thought you were talking about dark in thought.
It's very contemporary, and it looks something sci-fi. You know, it's just, it could have looked more like Native American something or
Okay.
other, but it's just use of color.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Any further comments or questions of the staff? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Stop.
And our last item for action tonight is Ordinance 01721. Again, I'll need a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Got a motion by Director Clark, seconded by Director Foley. All in favor of the motion is to suspend the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved. Mr. Albright, will you please read by title?
Yes, sir. Ordinance 01721, an ordinance amending the Hot Springs Code Title 17, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and gas and fire prevention building codes by providing certain incentive, construction permit, and plan fee check waivers to Hot Springs Housing Authority, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Foley, seconded by Director Clark. Ms. Selman,
Yes.
you're going to close the meeting.
Yes. Thank you. This item requests that the board consider certain 2017 and 2018 fee waivers through or up to January 1st, 2018, for the purpose of supporting home building via substantial rehabilitation of existing housing authority dwellings within city limits, specifically Mountain View Towers at High Rise Circle and Spring, Eastwood Heights across Spring for Mountain Towers, and Eastwood Gardens, generally located at Wade and Illinois. This would be in support of the Housing Authority's rental housing demonstration project for the Housing Authority of the City of Hot Springs. The fee waiver, should it be approved, in no way relieves the requirement to obtain a permit to comply with code requirements or to call for inspection. Likewise, fees are waived only for construction plan checking and for permits themselves, and the waiver includes neither reinspection fees nor penalty fees or commercial development permit and plan checking fees, specifically for, well, you don't need to know that. We already have part of the project that is located in the thermal basin, and fee waivers would have applied to part of the project, but not all of it. We still have only an estimated cost for the rehabilitation itself. The estimated foregone revenues over the 19-month waiver period for a project such as this, assuming a $30 million value, would be $68,239.13, and that is both plan review and the permits and inspections. Because this is an estimate, we're requesting that this not be a cap, but that the actual waiver may be more or less, depending on the final cost, which we still have not at this time been able to ascertain. Again, we're asking for a declaration of an emergency. Safe, sanitary, and attractive dwellings are keys to Hot Springs' economic health. This waiver shall be effective, if approved, on the date of approval. Without approving the emergency clause, the ordinance cannot take effect sooner than July 6th of 2017, and that would create a gap during which we would have to assess fees for certain parts of the project that appear to be well on their way to getting going. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Selman? Any comments from the directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance adopted. We have an emergency clause.
We do, Mayor. It's found in Section 2 of this ordinance, which I'll read in its entirety and ask the board to consider independently. Section 2, Emergency Clause, residential construction and redevelopment are keys to Hot Springs' economic health. This incentive shall be effective on the date of this ordinance is passed. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt this emergency clause.
Motion to adopt.
I move for adoption of the emergency clause.
Motion by Director Williams, seconded by?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Davidson. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Emergency clause adopted. That concludes the business items. Now we're under Board of Directors comments. Any Board of Directors have comments?
Just briefly,
Yes, Director Williams.
I want to compliment the staff on the preparation of this Green Initiatives report because growing progressive cities are going green. And then secondly, I want to compliment all my fellow staff and directors here who are wearing their coats and ties, but Director Williams has a rule between Memorial Day and Labor Day. He does not wear a coat and tie unless it's absolutely necessary. So I'll be wearing short sleeve shirts the rest of the summer.
Very good. Y'all are so now informed. Do we have any other comments by directors? I have a couple. If you haven't had fun in the city of Hot Springs in the last 2 weeks, you must have been out of town, because we have had we've gone 2 weekends now without a meeting, because we had 5 Tuesdays, and so we didn't meet last Tuesday. Well, we had the slow roll. We had 200 plus people do the slow roll down Park Avenue, across Whittington and down to the food truck. And then we had the Do for the Park on Saturday morning, and the rain held off, just stopped at 6 o'clock. So I went down there and competed. We had a lot of good races. And then this past Saturday, I'm out on a bike ride locally. I told everybody, I said, we got to be careful. We can't finish too soon because we'll run into the running of the tubs. And they said, okay, what time is that? I said, about 9, and if we come back through about 10:30, we should be okay. Well, I forgot all about it. Well, we came back. The whole city street was drenched in water. I'm not sure there was an ounce of water left in the tubs because it was all on the city streets. And, and from the pictures that I've seen, it seems like we had great attendance at the running of the tubs. And then on Saturday at Lake DeGray, Iron Mountain, they had the Sprint Xterra race, which is a mountain bike triathlon event. And then on Sunday morning, they had the national championship Xterra there at Lake DeGray on Iron Mountain. And I'm telling you, those trails had to be slicker than slick with all the rain that we got. So well above my skill level, so I stayed on pavement. And then I'm going to ditto what Director Williams said. We had 11 pages of green initiatives that the city staff put together at my request. And thank you, David, for, I know it was short notice, but I think it was important. And to the degree that we can get this out to the public, that would be great. But the amount of recycling we're doing here is just awesome. Huge amount of recycling. It makes a big difference in the number of trucks that we're sending to the landfill in Jacksonville. And then I learned some things here that I guess maybe my gray hair is telling me something here, but the IT department has 33 virtual servers. Did you know that, Brian?
It's like Scotty.
I know. We have 3 servers, and then we got 33 virtual servers that somehow operate without drawing power. And they said if we were actually using real servers versus virtual servers, they would use some like 9,900 watts a day or something. Sounds like a pretty significant amount. So, what I'm really getting at with this 11-page document is that the city of Hot Springs, they just don't talk the talk. They walk the walk. We're doing it. And we are really, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but if they're doing half of what we're doing, they're doing a pretty good job. So I'm appreciative of the report. I'm appreciative of the effort. And I know that it's part of our goals this year is to always be focusing on sustainability, green initiatives, and And David and I have communicated recently regarding making sure that as we go through our budgetary process, that when we have opportunities to go green, that we're really focused on that. I know there are a lot of mechanical things in here that the general public won't see, is how efficient our pumps and motors are at the treatment plants, and anything we can do to reduce our electrical use, our power use. So thank you very much. I guess that concludes. We need a
Mr.
motion
Mayor.
to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to acknowledge the Hot Springs Police Department in their winning the throwdown challenge between the fire department and the police department. I noticed Chief Stacey is here to accept the congratulations, and I noticed that Chief Ed Davis slunk out early.
Left early. Yeah.
So congratulations to you guys.
Did
That was a lot of fun.
and I read that trash remark about all you have to do was put a donut at the finish line. The police would go for it. While I'm in good humor and before we adjourn, since your car where the board members park, I now know what car is yours because it's got a bike rack on the back of it, right? Is that your car?
I have a car with a bike rack.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So I'll take the bike rack off.
No, I think it's a good thing. But now, I didn't know what you drove tonight, and as soon as I saw that, I said, I bet that's Mayor McCabe's car.
In fairness to the fire chief, he had an item on the consent agenda, and I know that Randy knows that, but I just want to make sure the people at home don't think that we have a friction between the battle of the badges here returned to the city board. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We got a motion by Director Filey, seconded by Director Davidson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.